So, welcome back, everybody. We are done. We're done with the Armor Rust trial case of involuntary manslaughter against Hannah Gutierrez, the Armor of Rust, who unfortunately loaded a firearm with a live bullet that struck and killed Halyna Hutchins by way of Alec Baldwin pulling the trigger. And the verdict is in. I watched it, so I definitely pre-watched it because I couldn't avoid it from Twitter, and I was in the middle of working, and I figured I would take a pause to just record this because I don't want to keep splitting the episode between like the horrible shit and then like fun shit with like all the Oscars watch list and stuff. So this is going to be an extremely short episode because I just want to get through this because I just want to give it its full context and yeah. So let's tune in on the verdict.
Both of them. Will the defendant please stand?
We find the defendant, Hannah Gutierrez, guilty of involuntary manslaughter as charged in count 1. We find the defendant, Hannah Gutierrez, not guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in count 2.
All right, thank you. You may be seated. Let me get those forms, retrieve those forms from you. I'm going to...
So another part of this too is that well, that's her mom. I don't know who this gentleman is, but I do believe that this is Hannah's mother. Yeah, it's heartbreaking, you know, to see your kid just just taken away like that. And they remanded her, which means that she is held under custody and she is literally going to jail. And that's it. That's all she wrote. And for those of you who probably want to know, this is, I think, someone related to Halyna Hutchins, the DP, the one in the hat. I'm not sure if that's her sister, and that's Hannah's mom, who just probably cursed in the middle of the court. Which I don't know. I feel like lawyers should set somebody up for, set their family up to have the understanding that this could very well end in a guilty verdict. And I have a few thoughts. Kind of echoing from yesterday's episode. I don't know what else to say other than that I have a lot of emotions. One of them being that she loaded the firearm. She did hand the gun off to the first AD, which the first AD has a plea deal. And apparently, I didn't know this, but before this trial, I was watching Emily Baker's stream earlier while I was working, and I didn't realize that she was offered a plea deal. She was offered a plea deal, and she didn't take it. The armor. She didn't take that plea deal. She thought she, I guess, could fight it. Which, is kind of honestly news to me. I don't know how that flew under my radar, but yeah, I don't know. seeing that the first AD is walked out unscathed, probation. Yeah, I know probation probably sucks for a lot of people, but it's better than prison. It's better than jail. And that's exactly where Hannah is heading to. And I just don't feel like, I don't feel good about it. I don't feel like there's any silver lining here. Because ultimately, first and foremost, a filmmaker, DP, cinematographer, Halyna Hutchins, is gone. And that's not, in my opinion, entirely on the hands of Hannah, the armorer. There's lots of evidence. There's lots of testimonies. We saw a lot between all these days. There were some goofs. There were some gaffes. There was a lot of serious moments, a lot of serious testimonies. And this is the verdict. A lot of people, too, I saw in the chat, in the court TV chat, that they're surprised that they remanded her. And I'm not. I'm not surprised whatsoever, because there's death. There's a murder. And the judge said that. And usually when it's involuntary manslaughter, according to a few lawyers, like, that's not really, like, typical. Or maybe it is. I don't know. I just feel like that's a kind of a no-brainer, And I just don't think that this was I don't think this was something that anyone could have controlled. It probably was already gonna not go her way from the beginning of this. And I would say that the defense did all that they could, but I don't fully know. I don't fully know. Yeah, I don't fully know. Because it just felt like there were so many things left open that the defense team could have easily closed, in terms of the OSHA report. And apparently, like, earlier today in trial, I missed it, like the first half of the trial. Apparently there was a filmmaker. I don't remember his name, but I did see his face. I did see his testimony. And yeah, I mean, it didn't really help the case in any way. And in fact, it completely contradicted what the defense brought with the OSHA report yesterday. And I don't know. Like, I think that this filmmaker, I think he did what he could. He's a film, I think he's a director. And he's worked in the industry for decades. And I should probably know his name, but I don't. You know what? Let me look for his name. I'm probably gonna cut this. All right. So this was the beginning testimony for the morning. So his name is PJ Pesh. He filmmaker. He worked or studied under Martin Scorsese. He's directed a lot. He's directed a lot. He's got TV shows, mostly TV, few movies. Yeah, so it's an impressive filmography. But I don't know if he really did any favor for the defense, considering that, it kind of disregarded all the other testimonies that happened yesterday with OSHA. And he mentioned that OSHA mentioned that it doesn't all fall under the armor. It falls, basically throughout the set, or whoever manages the set, which I don't really know what that means. And OSHA doesn't probably do investigations on movie sets a lot. So I think they just had to work with what they had, or what they got, or what they could see. And then so the next day, PJ Pesh shows up and was, just basically like, no, it all falls on the armor. It's all on the armor, this and that. And, it didn't necessarily help whatsoever. So, that being said, I think this trial was, and the reason why this was important to me, this trial at least, was because, well, one, this was a case that was, an incident that was so horribly handled that so many filmmakers on that set, so many people on that crew, between the first AD, even prop master, in many circumstances, in my opinion, although she wasn't in charge of the weapons, there could have been easily a check in safety, especially that prop master had a negligent discharge on set. So, and I've seen written documents, and I've seen even they had text messages for evidence, and that that there was a lot of a lot of fervor amongst that set to have the armor be removed or be fired from that set. And I just think that this clearly shows a phenomenal example as to what production has done, all the way to the crew and every other player in between, meaning every other crew member in between who could have and should have fucking stopped this. Now, does it still fall in the armor when it comes to bullets and management and managing your guns and making sure that everyone is accounted for, and you make sure that you take every single weapon that, after they shoot, you put it in a safe space, locked, and that just never happened. It never happened, and we've seen experts say that go through whole explanation as to why it shouldn't happen. But I feel like, y'all probably get it enough that it's just like this does fall a lot on the armor, but to have it entirely fall on her and see that the first AD, who was a safety coordinator, take a plea deal and just get 6 months probation, Halyna Gutierrez is probably going to face up to 18 months in prison. Now, a lot of people, who are familiar with incarcerations think that that's not a long time at all. But you got to understand something here. When you have a criminal record, I don't want to say your life is over, but if it were to be a plea deal where she just says that she's guilty and she takes a plea deal and goes for the probation, this probably, I read that it's much easier to get probation and all that off your record, or expunged from your record. So I don't know why she wouldn't have done that, knowing that most, if not all, the evidence is basically stacked up against her. And for those of you wondering, the second charge with tampering of evidence, that was because of the cocaine that she had. Well, presumably cocaine that she had in possession when Crafty, Rebecca, our girl Rebecca, showed up at her hotel room to help her out and just be with her. And she had news of the cinematographer's passing, Halyna's passing, and said it and shared it with Hannah. And then Hannah promptly, handed Crafty her cocaine or whatever white substance in little individual baggies in a bigger baggie. And and handed it off. And she, Crafty, being a recovered addict, said, fuck that, and just chucked it in a garbage can. Rightfully so. And so she is not charged with that because there's really no evidence that there was anything. Nothing was taken out of the trash. There was nothing to go by. So that's where she was not guilty. So, the jury says, and I don't argue the jury whatsoever. They only have with what the context and the evidence that they have provided them. And, I saw a few people, people in chat and Twitter essentially saying, that this is fucked up. She shouldn't be just going straight to jail. And I tend to agree, because if you have this one person out of, 3 people, including the entire production, like above the line, not being held accountable for all this, is baffling to me, which is why I feel like sentencing her to prison is just a little bit of a step too far. So, and there's no going back from it, right? So it is what it is, and this was how it was going to be laid out, and I just think that there could have been so much more that could have been done and prevented had the armorer Hannah just take a plea deal and just move on with her life. Just eat up those, however many months of probation and just continue on, because now it lives on her record, and she was never probably going to go back into the film industry, much less anyone else on that set, let alone Alec Baldwin. But yeah, it's a complete abomination of what this set became, which ultimately led to the incident. And I just, I'm still baffled by it. I'm still wrapping my head around it. I might discuss it in a further episode, just like on other thoughts and whatnot. But just so y'all are aware, we're not really at the end, because now I think coming in the summer, I don't know what month, but I know in the summertime, Alec is going to have his trial against the state of New Mexico. I think it's the same prosecutor who is filing the charge or got the charge against Alec, and it's going to be the same judge. And I got to say, the prosecutor is out for blood, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if he is found guilty, but I will be insanely surprised if he is not found guilty. I'm not trying to prey on his downfall. I know there's a lot of people who are fans of Alec Baldwin. And I liked a couple of his movies. It's just, I don't necessarily see him as a good person, because, he creates trouble for a lot of people. He's hard to work with on set and whatnot. And it even showed on raw footage that we saw included as evidence of the director being frustrated at him, Joel Souza, which is understandable, because if your actor is just kind of going off the fucking rails, it's really hard to work with them. Very hard to work with them. And not all actors are like that at all. I've worked with amazing actors who just, really want to help as much as they possibly can, and they work hard and fast all the time, just like any other crew that I've worked with. So I just think this is a very sad day, because I don't feel like any of them deserve to go to jail. They deserve to be reprimanded. They deserve to be shamed. They deserve to be held accountable. Absolutely. But prison? I mean, come on. Like, that's just... It's just silly. And I'm not forgetting the fact that, somebody died from this set. I absolutely know that. And, I talk about it all the time, and it's on my mind a lot. It's just when you have a shit production and, some of your crew is less than qualified, including the first AD, even though he has an impressive filmography. How do you just throw safety out the fucking window? I mean, like I said, y'all, we're just making movies. We're not trying to fucking split an atom here. We're not trying to, cure cancer. We're making pretend. We're just telling stories. So there's no reason for anybody to die and to be thrown in jail. It's just except for seeing something like this, So there's a lot more to be discussed, I guess, because there's going to be some like wrap ups and stuff, and then what this case can be as a foreshadowing for Alec Baldwin's case. Which I don't know if it's going to be televised. Let me know if any of y'all know it's going to be televised. But yeah, I think this will be it for me when it comes to, and of course I'm going to cover it when the summer hits and the Alec Baldwin trial comes in. But I don't know if I want to be talking about this a lot, just because it's deep. It's really tough, but I do feel like this is important. And I feel like it's important in so many ways, but I also feel like a lot of filmmakers can really learn from this, just to see every single crew member and how dedicated they are to their craft. And all it takes is just a couple of people on a crew to fuck that up entirely. Because make no mistake, producers and top of the line people, like they hire based off of where the location is. So like, let's say Austin for an example, right? It's not like I know the line producer, right? Which is Gabrielle Pickle in this instance for the Rust film. I don't usually talk to line other than, discussing deal memos and stuff like that. Usually people who I work with in art department would get me that job, or at least recommend me the job, and I would go on as a set deck or a set dresser, and sometimes even props. But I usually do set dressing or set deck. And, it's easy to have a really good set with people who give a shit about filmmaking. And of course, like it's hard when you work with, top of line people, like either directors or even a DP who's unsavory producers. Yeah, you work with that because that's kind of part of life. But usually, more times than not, when I work on a film shoot, there's love at all times. And everyone looks out for each other because we all know each other. And Austin is a pretty, I don't want to say it's a tiny community, but it's small enough it's big enough, but small for when, every time we go on a film set, it's easy to run into people who you worked with before. And I love that because then it's just kind of like, a reunion and like one giant, like happy, like summer camp thing, and that's what making movies is all about. Part of it, creating the art is the other half, and the other side of that is, working with people who you love, because ultimately people work for people, and I don't think Rust really had that intention. And it sucks because I do see people on that crew who are very emotional because they do treat Halyna Hutchins, the cinematographer, as family. And that goes as far as the set medic. You know what I mean? And you wouldn't, it's not uncommon for set medics to even like chat up with the crew and whatnot. Of course, especially, there's only a couple of set medics here in Austin who I work with, and I love them. Like they're super nice, they're awesome, they're sweet. They could be a little controlling at times, but that's for a reason. But all in all, it's just such a sad state of affairs to be on the witness stand as a filmmaker and recount every single fucking beat of that set, and trying to, hold your composure is just not a thing, because you've been with this person for weeks, you got to know them, and one day they're not there anymore. And so for the perspective of anybody on crew, that is sometimes just detrimental. And usually there has to be a mood on the set, you know what I mean? It's usually established by the director, but it trickles down. So if the director's stressed, the first AD stressed, second AD stressed, production stressed, then costume stressed, then G&E is stressed, then art department stressed, then sound, it trickles down. And on this Rust set, it felt like there was just days upon days upon days where it was just nothing but stress and nothing but anxiety and stuff. But at the end of the day, especially with the key dolly grip, who was there in the church when the incident happened, the way that he recounts it is, like losing a loved one. And I think that's comes to show you how deep this goes in the film industry when we work with people who we absolutely love and enjoy. And so we've taken a heavy loss, and we can't never, ever forget Halyna Hutchins, the cinematographer, and I don't think we ever will, especially with this incident. I feel like there's going to be a lot more to be said with Alec Baldwin's case. But all in all, I don't think sending somebody to jail when half of the other people who are held accountable just got a plea deal and were able to walk away. So it just comes to show you that prosecution, at least the state of New Mexico, is out for fucking blood to, take down supposedly the bad, the bad eggs of this set, and remove the people who, I don't know, that the state just feels like they're being held accountable for. In my opinion, I feel like the shame and the guilt and I don't know, just the brigading of the film industry to prevent anybody who is like that to be on set, because nobody would feel safe when, if they bring a first AD on another set or another shoot. Same thing with the armorer. I just don't know if jail is the answer for that. I don't know if being incarcerated is the answer for that. And they didn't even give her any time to just say goodbye. the armor. She didn't even say goodbye to her mom. She didn't, she just, the sheriffs in the courtroom just said, all right, get up, take your jewelry off, and we're putting you into custody. And that's it, That's all she wrote. So it's heartbreaking on so many levels, but not just on the level of what the verdict is. It's just more on the level of how insane this entire incident became, and how all this just small little things could have been prevented, and Halyna Hutchins would still be alive. So I'm not going to talk about this for a while. I just kind of want this to soak in a little bit, but I wanted to get this episode out. I don't know if I count this as an episode. I feel like it's like a half episode, so I might, this might be, 22.5, But we're going to go back. We're going to come back and do some fun, silly stuff. There's a lot of film news that we got to cover. During this entire trial, I've just been so court focused that so much movie news has been happening and so much shit in the film world has been going on. We gotta get back to that. So I want to get back to that, and I want to go into the whole melancholy stuff with all this until at least the summertime. And we got a few months until then. If I'm not going to be bombarded with work, which may or may not happen. I don't know, but we'll see. We shall see. So that's been Adam's Chase podcast, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, and rest in peace, Halyna Hutchins. You'll forever be missed. And we're forever grateful for all the work that you've done. Take care.